Hi, Chamber of Commerce community. This is Morgan, CEO of the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce. And I wanted to connect with you today and provide a really valuable resource and introduce you to my guest who you see here. This is Craig LaFargue, and he's going to be sharing some insights with you. Really quick, I want to tell you a little bit about his background and why it's important to listen to what he has to say. And pardon me for reading this, I just don't want to miss anything. Craig LaFargue is the principal for LaFargue Leadership Solutions. It's a consulting firm dedicated to improving individual, team, and organization effectiveness. He was the former director of organization learning and effectiveness for Alameda Health System in Oakland, California. And OLE was responsible for system-wide leadership and organizational development. He has over 25 years of experience in both consulting and leadership roles within organizations, including Senior Vice President of Leadership Consulting for Lee Hecht Harrison, Vice President of Global Leadership and Organizational Development for the Walt Disney Company, and Director of Consulting for Johnson & Johnson. I want to go on and tell you more, but what is important to know about Craig is that he has vast experience in multiple industries. And that's important because right now in the era, I guess, that we're living in, and we have this harsh reality of COVID-19 affecting us. It's affecting, our businesses. Some of you have closed doors already. Some of you have laid off people. And it's heavy. It weighs heavily on the hearts of us as business owners. And so though this crisis is unprecedented, we've lived through other kinds of crises like this. Perhaps it's, the economic crash of 2008. Maybe it's some of the other diseases that have come around. And so what I wanted to do was ask you, Craig, specifically, because you've had experience leading through those different times, what is it that business owners, what are some thoughts that you have on what we should be doing now to prepare for when the shelter in place is lifted and businesses can reopen?
Well, I guess, first of all, one of the things that comes to mind is an acronym that the U.S. military came up with the end of last century, beginning of this century. Is called VUCA, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, happening all at once. And it usually describes a wartime combat situation where reality as we know it just changes by the minute. And this is very much like that. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how long it's going to be. We don't know who's going to be affected. We don't know if we're affected. There is so much unknown, so much changing, so much ambiguity, so much complexity, that it's very easy for people to just throw up their hands or want to go hide in the hole or something like that. It's a very terrifying time to be a business owner. When you asked me about this, I put a couple of thoughts down, and one of the things is ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen to my business? And maybe break it down into a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe 6 months. And kind of detail it out what you think might happen. And then once you know that, then start to make a plan to at least adapt to that and prevent yourself from going under completely. That would be one thing. I was in Murphy's the other day, and of course there's not much going on. We went there to pick up some wine. We like wine. And my wife bought a pizza at the Brick, and we're sitting outside eating it. And there's a guy, maybe about 20 feet away from us, who is an owner of one of the wineries there. And he got to talking to somebody about how they're dealing with this. And he says, I just started talking with a friend of mine, and we were just kind of having fun brainstorming. And we came up with the idea of, why not do a virtual wine tasting and a dinner? So his wife put together a series of recipes, and then they paired wine, and then they send it out to people, and they all get online together and kind of talk about it and share it. Now, brilliant. It's kind of interesting, but early in my career, I was asked to develop a program on innovation, how to help people think creatively and innovatively. And one of the things we discovered in the research is that creativity happens when there's a crisis, when something that you've always been doing isn't working anymore, and you've got to figure out a way for it to work, or else you're going to go under. And that's where the creative spark seems to arise from. So one of my favorite quotes that Clinton's secretary, or his staff manager, said was, never let the opportunity of a crisis go to waste. So crisis really means two things. It means scary and anxious and fear and destitution and all that stuff. But it also means change and an opportunity for change. And a crisis is great for change because it opens the door.
Yeah.
You may not like what the door is opening you into, but it opens the door, and all your past ideas of what can and can't work are out the window. And now you're faced with a brand new day. Now, albeit not a great day, but it's new, and it gives you an opportunity to try something different. So an idea might be that for a business owner to get together with other business owners, or maybe you and your chamber, and do a little group of maybe 5 or 6 people. And one person is the client and the others are the business consultants, and they just give them ideas on what to do. Now, a couple of things can happen. One is you get outside of your own head, you get other people's ideas, which stimulate different ideas, but it also increases the sense of community, which is very necessary in a time like this. I mean, the whole idea of stay in place is effectively isolating us from each other. But there's a lot of other ways we can maintain communication, such as the way you and I are doing. We're going to have a nice lunch today, but that's not going to go. So we do this. But you can do a little virtual meeting like that with your Zoom app. And if you can construct the environment right, people can feel pretty free and comfortable with the ideas, and you might get a good idea. And at the very least, you'll have a good time.
Right.
Finally, we have to accept that we can't control this. There's no way we can control it. You can control how you respond, however. And that's, I think, what's helpful for people to think about. How am I going to respond to this? Not just essentially a panic response, but to consider, here's the situation. How am I going to respond to it?
Yeah. That's huge, because this could be seen as an opportunity, really. And there's some amazing businesses that have evolved from hard times, from Depression era and from other ones. And it's people that are able to think above the fear and to connect with others. And I love what you were talking about with other business owners, because it creates almost a mastermind effect with others that oftentimes when we can collaborate and work off of other people's minds, they're able to tap into a bigger idea and a bigger solution than what we could do on our own. And so there's a lot of beauty in that. So thank you for sharing that. My next question is a tough one, because I've had a lot of phone calls with people that are just devastated about having to figure out what to do with payroll. Payroll is obviously the largest part for a lot of people for their businesses. And right now, most business owners would love to have all of their staff on full time and keep paying for them, but it's not feasible if you want the business to continue. And so what I love to ask you is, for business owners out there that are really trying to determine the next step with their staff, those that still have them, what strategy would you recommend?
You know, that reminds me of a situation that happened to me early in my career. And I had a staff of, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12. And I was told that I had to cut expenses, and that meant cutting staff people.
Sure.
And I said to my boss, are you looking to cut staff people, or are you looking to cut money? And he says, money. I says, okay, good. So that gave me the freedom. And I went back to the staff and I explained to them, here's the deal. I said, a quick way to do it is for me to identify someone and lay that person off. But we might have other ideas. I mean, I would be totally fine with the idea of we all take a commensurate cut in pay to save the money, and that way everyone can stay, but everyone has to take a hit. What are some other ideas? So we threw around a bunch of ideas for a while and came back to that one. And I said, okay, but I'm only going to do it if each of you agree to do it, that it's okay. But you have to talk to me alone, because I don't want to do it in the group thing, because there's group pressure and group conformity and all that sort of thing. So they all did, and they all agreed to take a cut in pay, and we were able to keep the staff together and meet the demands of the business. My point is that don't make all the decisions on your own. These are your staff. These are fully functional human beings that have a brain and ideas and creativity, and they've been with you for a while. Make use of it. Get together in a group and say, here's the situation. Here's kind of my plan. What can you do to help with it? Or what ideas do you have? Get them involved. And I think, again, it takes some of the pressure off of you, but it also opens you up to other ideas that you may not have thought of. And again, it'll help increase the sense of camaraderie and morale within the staff if they feel like they're working this together rather than being told what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think keeping people in the loop and giving the respect of trying to figure, this out together is an effective form for a lot of small businesses. Now, I know that there are a number of businesses here in Calaveras County that have already had to make the difficult decision. And I'll just say briefly, because of the resources that I'm aware of and I know of, and this is just more for the community that's watching, is we do have resources through Mother Lode Job Training, and they'll probably be directing you to EDD, which is our Economic Development Department here in California, Employee Development Department. And there are unemployment insurance opportunities absolutely for your business employees. And it's a tough decision to decide to lay someone off, and it sounds like such an ugly term. The positive side of it is that, first of all, it provides some financial means for your employees. And second of all, you are not alone. You're not failing as a business. There are literally probably hundreds of thousands of people right now across the US that are turning to unemployment insurance because of the impact it's had on so many industries. And so it's something to think about and to have the conversations. Craig gave some really good collaborative thought if you are struggling with what to do with, the next steps in your staff, if you have to make a decision. And in reality, Craig and I can both give you, I'm really struggling here. I'm sorry. I'm so torn up about this unemployment thing. We can give you our opinions, but you know the real snapshot of what's going on with your own business. And so if you know that you can't afford to keep the doors open for another month, then that may be a different conversation than, keeping the door open for a couple of months or more. So it's a very difficult conversation to have, but I love the outside the box thinking, because truly that is what keeps us having a dialogue and thinking of newer and better options. I want to ask you something that is kind of a passion of mine, because in so many circumstances, I think about people that have overcome immense obstacles in their lives, and there have been very bad times before. And the people that are successful and thrive through it have a very different mindset than the ones that succumb to the suffering and resign to what is given to us instead of what is being created. And so, Craig, with that being said, and it being a scary time, it's easy to get overwhelmed by what we're seeing, going through the news, going through the social media. Sometimes it takes me, I have to separate myself and turn off the TV, turn off my social media, because it's very overwhelming. what are some strategies that we can do as business owners to really maintain resilience and gain traction, not just to have it happen to us, but actually to gain traction through this process?
Well, I'm reminded of what my grandmother used to tell me back when I was a kid, and this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And it will. I mean, we will eventually find a vaccine. The virus will eventually recede. I mean, we're all carrying a coronavirus called the common cold anyway. So we built up immunity, and we will build up immunity. It's not life-threatening to everybody in the population, only people that are seriously at risk anyway. So it's not going to be the plague that wipes out the whole world. It is very serious, though. You can't control this. There's just no way you can control it. So the main focus is to stay healthy. I was, again, talking with another vintner friend of mine. I seem to have a lot of vintner friends around. And he had lost like 10 pounds. He was a nervous wreck. And I said, you're wearing down your system. You're wearing down your way that you can fight the virus. You've got to be healthy. You've got to eat right. You can worry, but worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but nothing happens. And,
right.
and a way to break out of that is there's a process called mindfulness thinking, or mindfulness training, or mindfulness mediation. And that is a way to kind of calm yourself. Nobody is making you feel anxious. Nobody is making you feel worried. It's how you are interpreting the events, and that you continue to ramp it up to, in a short time, you're at a catastrophe and the world is going to come apart in 3 minutes. That's all you're doing. That's us. Nobody's doing that to us. It's us. And it's easy to be in that situation with the media. Every minute is talking about the coronavirus. You can't go out and have parties. So it's easy to do. But the main thing is, you can control your response. It's not easy, but you can do it. And there's a lot of techniques. I mean, the one that's coming up now that really seems to be the most effective is the one called mindfulness thinking. And your readers can Google that, and there's several good books out there. And I think there's even some people in Murphy's that train in mindfulness thinking. And that's very helpful. But you've got to keep your immune system healthy. And worry and anxiety depletes that. Worry and anxiety kicks us into a mode of where we have to do something, the fight or flight. And that kicks up a whole lot of hormones that stress the immune system. So the more we can realize that you cannot control this, no way in hell are you going to be able to control this. But you can control the way you think about it. You can control the way you visualize it. You can't control the way you react to it. And that in turn will help your immune system stay strong and healthy to fight this off.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's worth mentioning, and I do want to be sensitive because I know that some of our audience is going to be saying, well, hold on, we need to look out for the vulnerable population, which is 1,000% accurate. And we are very much talking about that. What we're saying is that it's often really impactful to think about what you were saying, Craig, with worst case scenario. I mean, what could really happen here for the business? Or think about, like, let's just be real and literal about what is going on here, and looking at the facts of, is it likely that you'll get this? And not in the reasoning of making poor decisions and, putting other vulnerable populations at risk by getting out and being mobile and ignoring the realities of what's going on, but instead to ease your mind and knowing that there is nothing that you can do really to control what's going on. Right. And all we can do is control the mindset. And that's so powerful. I love that you said that. So thank you for sharing that. I like to end things kind of on, positive terms, because we're trying to keep that faith, fire flamed and keep going. But what are some things that you're hopeful about right now throughout this coronavirus?
Well, one of the things that impressed me, I can only speak to District 2. That's where I live in Wilseyville. And we're pretty rural out here. It's not like, Murphy's and San Andreas are the big cities. We aren't. But people out here really, really look out for each other. They support and care for each other because, that's all there is. There's
Sure.
no government facilities here like there are in San Andreas and maybe Murphy's. And I know of the West Point Lions Club has just started a little program where they're going out and they're delivering food to elderly people who really don't want to get out of their house, and they shouldn't go out of their house, and delivering food and supplies and stuff for them to meet. That just kind of springs up.
Right.
Now, you don't see that in a big city, but here in the rural area, people know that we're all we got. So we have to do what we can to support each other. And, I would hope that the virus pandemic will continue to stimulate this sense of caring for your neighbor and looking out for each other and thinking about the other person and how you can help each other. I think that's great. And it gives us a sense of belonging and hope, and more importantly, confidence.
Yeah.
And that's what we
That's
need.
beautiful.
Confidence
Yeah.
that we will be able to survive. It's not the end of the world. This too shall pass. And, if we do the right things, then it'll be okay. There's going to be some big bumps in the road. There's some big bumps in the road, but, that's kind of life.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that, because right before we started chatting today, I got an email talking about Patty from the Moose Lodge in Arnold, and they're doing free lunches to the public on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays from 11 to 2. And this really is giving people a platform to shine, to show what they're doing in the community, and that will be remembered. And I think that's another important key to remind businesses is that, right now there's struggle. When there's struggle and you're dealing with that ambiguity, put your value in people and put your value in servant leadership, because that is going to provide a lasting impact on our community that will not be forgotten. And so I just wanted to highlight that. Do you have any parting words of wisdom that you can leave us with?
Well, you can't control this. You just can't. The best thing you can do is adapt. In fact, that's all you can do is to adapt. And being anxious is understandable, but it's not going to change anything except decrease the effectiveness of your immune system, which needs now more than ever to be operating at top effectiveness. But you can't control any of this. But you can control the way you react. You can control your response. You can control the way you think. And you just have to, believe that it's going to work out. Maybe not the way you want, but it'll work out.
Yeah. Craig, it was such a pleasure getting to connect with you, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us here in Calaveras County. And what's a way that we can stay connected with you? What are ways that people can hear more from you and reach out to you?
They can, I'm certainly willing to work with the chamber on whatever needs there might be, whether it's working with groups of people or doing some of these little gatherings to facilitate, how do I help my business and getting other people involved in ideas. People can always contact me via email. So
what's your email?
It's Craig LaFargue at gmail.com.
You better spell your last name for everybody.
Okay, so the first name is Craig with a C, C-R-A-I-G. Last name is LaFargue, L-A-F as in Frank, A-R-G-U-E at gmail.com.
Perfect. And can we find you on LinkedIn too?
LinkedIn, yes.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, Craig, thank you. It was such a pleasure connecting with you. And I know that this is going to provide hopefully some much needed relief to business owners that it's okay, we're going to be okay. And those words are definitely impactful for me. So thank you so much for sharing. And we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh.